How can movement, a rubber ducky, or a gratitude alarm build the resilience of the kids and teens in your life? Our guest today, Illinois Secondary PE Teacher of the Year and creator of the Yoga for PE YouTube channel, Victoria Otto, will show you how. Welcome to the Raising Resilient Kids podcast, where we provide parents, teachers, and coaches with ideas and strategies to help kids and teens build their resilience and achieve their potential in a healthy, fulfilling way. Welcome to the podcast. Hi, brother.
Hello, sister. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm well rested after my flight back from Illinois. It was wonderful to see you live and in the flesh.
It was great to see you as well and have you here. What'd you think of the show, the Newsies musical?
Oh, my goodness. So Annie, Tom's youngest daughter, was in the musical Newsies at her high school, and it was so good. I have not been able to stop thinking about it. It's a really dance-heavy show if you're not familiar with it. And Annie, my youngest niece, is a dancer. And I just loved that choreographer for that show because she was front and center the whole time. And I found myself just smiling like kind of an idiot the whole show. Now, how many times? So I only saw it once. How many times did you see the show?
I saw it 5 times.
What a dad.
Yes.
5 times.
But Linda saw it more. She saw it all. I think there were 8 total shows, including the dress rehearsal that parents get to go see as well. So it was great, though. It was sold out for almost all of them. So it was pretty neat.
That is so cool. You know, we talked a little bit about this, but I did musicals in high school too. And it really is, it is those kids' Super Bowl. They work so hard for it. It is opening night on Broadway. It means so much. And I can't imagine as a parent, like as an aunt, it was so exciting to watch her when you can just like see that visible joy because that moment means so much to them. And then to have a sold out crowd is even cooler because, the cheers are louder and the laughs are louder. And it was so awesome.
Yeah, she just lights up. That was the first time during her freshman year when she was in the musical for the first time. That was the first time I saw her. Just pure joy in her face and her eyes. It's the most wonderful thing. The best thing a parent could ask for sure.
My other favorite part about being at home is the fact that like when I'm home, you kind of become like dad and you pay for all my meals. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. No.
It's so true. Every time I'm home.
But then when I'm there, you guys make me food and buy me stuff.
I don't know. Usually even then you come up with an excuse as to why you're going to pay for meals. And I wonder like if we were closer in age, for those of you that don't know, we are 12 years apart or 12 and a half somewhere. We're a lot of years apart, basically. And I wonder like if we were closer in age, would we like split it more often? But no, you like pay for everything. It's kind of cool.
I don't know. Well, good. I'm glad it gets you to come out here more often.
Yeah.
Because I like having you out here.
No, it was so much fun. I know Mom had so much fun. You guys celebrated your birthdays and it was such a fun trip.
Before we jump in then to the podcast though, just a quick update. I am still in the lead over reviews. So looks like Mom's coming out.
Listen, this is why I'm annoyed. Do you know the amount of times I've asked my husband, he lives in the house with me, okay? I have asked him repeatedly to write a review, and no one procrastinates more than Nick.
Well, my wife is the same way, so.
Oh, that's true. Okay, so just a reminder to those of you listening, if you like the podcast or even if you don't like the podcast, you can go ahead. We would really appreciate a review. It helps us to get seen by people out there that are looking for content like this. And we have this whole bet. We have this whole thing going on for whoever gets more reviews, basically, that person will have Mom at their Thanksgiving table. So if you want to vote, quote unquote, vote for Tom, you're going to say Tom and Jeannie or brother, sister in your review. Or if you want to vote for me, Jeannie and Tom. Okay, well, I am so excited for our guest, Victoria Otto. I know that you all are going to love her. Her energy is infectious. I don't want to give too much away, but I am so excited to chat with her.
Our question for this month actually comes from both teachers and parents. I've gotten a version of this question from many people over the weeks and months that we've had this podcast. And the question kind of goes something like, when I'm teaching mindfulness, whether it's to kids in my class, to my own kids, sometimes there's students or my own kids just won't sit still. And what's the best thing to do with these types of students? So to answer this question, I am thrilled that we have Victoria Otto here with us. She was actually selected as both an Illinois Secondary PE Teacher of the Year, as well as the Midwest District Secondary PE Teacher of the Year. She teaches physical education and health at Highland Park High School, where she creates a classroom for students to focus on developing conscious living skills, and offers a yoga and meditation elective class, which is pretty interesting. Victoria has a BS in physical education exercise science from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse and an MS in health education from Pennsylvania State University. She's a certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor, yoga instructor, and has an excellent YouTube channel called Yoga for PE by Victoria Otto. Jeannie, I actually first met Victoria Otto at a PE and health teacher conference that I went to. Cool. I got there early because I knew I wanted to see it just from looking at the description. And people just kept coming in and in, and they were like literally outside the door in the hallway waiting to. And what I loved about her, and why as soon as we started this podcast, I thought, okay, this is somebody I definitely want to get on the podcast, because she really kind of combines what I think are the three key things with this stuff. One, practical activities that you can actually take and apply. A real good kind of understanding of the science, too, behind it, of why it works. And she does a great job of explaining that to kids and to adults as well. And then, as you'll see, an incredible enthusiasm for teaching it, just extraordinary enthusiasm for teaching it. So, Victoria, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to share.
Let's kick it off then with that question. What do you think? Any thoughts on that as far as those kids who just won't sit still, that are in our classes or our own kids?
The answer is multiple answers based on your setting and who you're dealing with, the age, all this kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to answer it the best I can. And the first is just let them. If they're sitting there wiggling, let them wiggle. Because what you're doing is you're creating that space for them to start to learn to settle. We as adults forget we're kind of domesticated as we teach our children to socialize. We as adults, if we got to sit down and meditate, we're going to sit down and we're going to be like right here. Where kids, they're not domesticated fully yet. If you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. And they're moving around and they're shaking, and that's actually kind of what they're supposed to be doing, especially in a school setting where the kids, we kind of have it kind of backwards. The kids should not be sitting. That's not good for our brain functioning. I teach juniors and seniors, so they're sitting for 8 periods a day other than my period. And so we're not actually made to do that. So when they do come into your PE class, they should wiggle and move a little bit. My experiences come from teaching a full year curriculum of yoga and meditation. I see my kids 4 days a week. So I get to practice almost every day with my students. And consistency is part of the settling down. Every day we just tune in and tune out. So it's 3 breaths in. And then when we tune out, we give an intention to ourselves. We give an intention to someone else, like forgiveness, understanding, compassion. And the last one is, set an intention for someplace in the world, some group of people that need a little extra TLC. So beginning the class with just 3 breaths and then ending the class with that, you are starting to set the foundation for that quiet time. What happens is, like, at least 50% of the class is bought in right away. And within a week, I will have 75 bought in. I would say by the end of the quarter, every single kid is bought in because they're sitting on their mat in their tuning out position. And at first they'll look around and their little eyes will be open, and then they'll shut them. They're kind of, they're looking side to side, and they're noticing that their buddies are out tuned in.
Sure.
And so they give in to the process. And that comes from consistent practice. On occasion, I do have some kids that will struggle a little bit more. They might have some emotional traumas that are going on, or they might be special needs. So I have a few tricks. So my first trick, working on the breath, is the almighty rubber ducky.
Oh, nice.
So now you brought in some silliness, some fun, a little bit of that inner child's coming in. And who doesn't like a rubber ducky? I'll have the kids lay down first and I'll put it right on their stomach. And they get to do that. And they just practice connecting the breath with their body. So the rubber ducky goes up and the rubber ducky goes down. Whew.
That diaphragmatic breathing,
Sure.
yeah.
And breathing in.
Yeah.
And exhale. And so they can connect that and become very conscious of that. It brings the connection to the breath and their body, and it kind of takes a little bit of the self-consciousness out of it. Another one that works really well is these Hoberman balls. I use them all the time with my special needs kids because it's in there right in front of them and they can watch it. So you breathe in and exhale.
Nice.
So there's something that they're physically looking at, because some people do have a problem with closing their eyes. And this just gives them something really to make those connections back and forth and follow along with the rhythm. My ultimate goal would be, they have big Hoberman balls that are like this big.
Yeah.
They cost so much money. I would love to get the whole class to work on a breath, breathing in and exhale as a class. But
that's good.
I haven't done that one yet. So anyway,
I've seen some PE teachers do it with like a parachute, where they'll, hey, everybody breathe in and then
breathe in, exhale.
Yeah, and that's another way to do it. Yeah.
The next step in being still, and so I start with only 3 minutes of breath work, and I start with the long, deep breath, the breath of fire, and alternate nostril breathing. They're like the Swiss Army knives of breath. And so if you're introducing your child to those breath patterns, that's going to set them up for all the other forms of breath work and meditation. Long, deep breath is, probably is the ultimate foundation.
Victoria, if you could just explain. So basically just breathe in for as long as you can.
And exhale.
Okay.
And when I'm teaching it, I will always count it out. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1.
So you're doing 4 seconds. Would you recommend if you're doing juniors and seniors, if parents or teachers are teaching littler kids, would it still be 4 seconds you recommend, or is it shorter?
Oh, well, see, I start at 4 seconds.
4 seconds. Okay.
And so like the first minute or two, and I'll just kind of monitor and see. So let's back up for 1 second. Minutes do matter. So 3 minutes, 7 minutes, 11 minutes, 22 minutes, 31 minutes, 2.5 hours. That's actually where they start to see a shift under the functional MRIs. So it's not that you're not doing anything if you take a 1 minute breath. It's just kind of scratching at the door. It's like tap, 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 where the shift actually starts. So I'll always do a 3 minute start. And I'll count up to do the 4 count for at least the first minute, especially the first time I'm doing it. And I'll just watch. And as I see them sink in, because if you've done this before, there is a shift and it is visible that you can see it. And then I'll push to 6. And then if I can get them to 8, like right now, all my students can get to 8, but in the beginning they can't. I always make sure the first 4 to 6 times I do a meditation session, I will have every student speak or verbalize something. 1, that gets the whole class to participate, but 2, I emphasize that there's no wrong experience, because everybody who's having an experience right now, you will have that experience at some point in time. And so we want to learn and listen. And through that process, the self-consciousness starts to decrease. Then when I've heard from everyone, I'll be like, okay, who had a hard time shifting from 4 count to 6 count? And you'll have a number of people raise their hand. And that usually means that regardless of what your mind thinks, you are physiologically in the fight or flight. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated because you can't shift. Now, if you shifted, it might have taken you 1 or 2 breath works, but then you shifted, you were starting to sink more into the parasympathetic and releasing the sympathetic. When we talking like the Buddhist monks and the people that are really like on this, they take 1 minute breath, one cycle in 1 minute. Right. And they do that all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And that shifts the whole body chemistry with what's going on. They're really into the empathetic centers of the brain. And so we can't even comprehend how they can see compassion in some of the most horrendous events that we see, like on the news and stuff like that, because their brain is actually wired differently and on a whole different dimension or existence or plane or whatever word you want to use for it. And that's the goal, is we want to be able to find that level of peace or contentment as life comes at us, so that we can make the best possible choices for ourselves.
Victoria, this class, so it's an elective class, and you said it's a full year, the yoga and meditation class?
Yeah, how my school is set up, Illinois requires 4 years of physical education with health and driver's ed mixed in there. Some schools do get a lot of waivers to move around that, which to me is not really practicing social emotional learning or looking at the whole child. We know conclusively that we need to move. There's so much evidence out there that if your child isn't moving, you're not setting their brain up to learn, to be that little sponge that they are. So even if they are a little sponge, you're like, well, my kid's a little sponge. Could you imagine how much more spongier they would be if they moved more? We forget that these are still children, and there's a certain level of free play that needs to happen. And when we take that out, which is what we are seeing now, a lot of the problems we're having with the depression, the anxiety, and all of the other mental issues can be directly correlated to us not allowing our children to have unstructured free play.
Yeah.
And the research from Dr. Peter Gray out of Boston is huge on this. There's actually a couple websites you can go on. Free Range Kids is one of them, where you can go and see some techniques that can help you implement some of these things. We've created this society of safetyism, and we're overly protecting the kids, which ends up crippling the kids because they can't develop their sense of autonomy. So we got to let kids play. We've got to let them fall down. We've got to let them get hurt. We don't want our children in pain, but that's also how they learn.
And I've heard the term, I used to hear helicopter parent. I've actually heard snowplow parents.
Nowadays,
is that they're applying every, problem or issue or challenge. If they're trying to kind of push it away so the kids don't have to handle it, but that's you got to have that. That's how you learn and grow. Yeah.
And so what the universities are now, they're having an emotionally less mature student coming into college. So that's where they're struggling, is because they are not ready to be independent.
Right. Yeah.
One of the questions I get from my kids, because they're juniors and seniors, is like, what do I need to know for college? What you need to learn to do is, how do you do your laundry? Do you know the difference between the washer and the dryer? And do you know what Windex and Comet are for? And if you're organic, baking soda and vinegar and water. Because you need to learn how to clean things. Because there's not someone going to be there to clean things. Are you conscious of your bathroom habits? These are the things you need to be conscious of when you're living with people outside of your family group. And you should be conscious of them with your family too.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah.
But in family, we give that grace. Learn how to cook your comfort meal that your mom cooks in the microwave, because that's what you're going to have.
Yeah.
Practice with your parents now.
The talk about these challenges things reminds me of something we talked about when we were first discussing prior to hitting record on the podcast. We talked about earlier is the lobster story.
Oh, I love the lobster story. Can you
explain that? Yes, I love this. So I think this is a great one. I definitely want people to hear this.
Yeah. So there's a lot of YouTube versions of it. So I might miss a few little points to it. But lobsters, they cruise around on the bottom of the ocean. They're great. They clean up the ocean for us. But they have this exoskeleton. And so they can only grow so far. And then life gets uncomfortable for them. And they've got to make a decision. Am I going to go crawl in a hole so that the sharks don't eat me? Or am I going to die here and basically suffocate within this exoskeleton? So, of course, any normal lobster will go in the hole. And what they'll do is, release their exoskeleton, grow another one. And during that process, they're in the darkness. And this is a place where we have gotten really afraid of in our culture. Like, don't go in the darkness, don't go in the pain. And that's where the safety culture comes from, both physically and emotionally. So in the darkness is where true growth comes from. And then they come out, with a new exoskeleton, and they're all like, woohoo. The key thing is life is uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah. And we have to learn to handle being uncomfortable. And then the uncomfortable no longer is uncomfortable anymore. And so, be a lobster.
Excellent. Can you tell us about your YouTube channel? Any suggestions on favorite videos you think people should check out? Because I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. I have actually not put a lot more on there because I'm going to be retiring in May. It started because of COVID and
Sure.
people needed things to do. So I put a bunch of stuff out there. And when I retire, I really want to focus again on creating that YouTube site and getting things more accessible for everyone to use. I have long, deep breath and alternate nostril breathing on there.
Do you mind maybe walking us through one or two techniques?
Why don't we try alternate nostril breathing, since I know everybody can do long, deep breath.
All right, I like it.
So I always like to tune in. So we're just kind of setting the stage. Basically, it's like letting our body, doing a free throw. You're just letting our body know what we're doing. So you can tune in with your hands in Gyan Mudra, which is index finger and thumb together, hands in the lap, or bring them up into prayer position. You choose what works for you and wherever you're at. Take a nice long deep breath in and exhale. Take a nice long deep breath in and exhale. And one more time, nice long deep breath in and exhale. And doing that alternate nostril breathing, your left hand is going to be, index finger and thumb are going to come together. And this is the symbol of knowledge and wisdom. And your thumb is the symbol of your ego. So what you're doing is pushing your ego aside so the knowledge and wisdom can come through. And that hand's just going to hang out right there. Your thumb is going to start on the right side, and it's always this right hand. And you're going to find that nice little spot there where your nose decreases. And you're just going to gently cut off the flow of air there. And you're going to breathe in through the left. Exhale. And one more inhale. You're going to suspend the breath, and you're going to rotate that hand right across your face, and you're going to use either the pinky or ring finger. They're both correct. Exhale. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Rotate to the thumb. Exhale. Inhale. Suspend the breath. Rotate and exhale. Inhale. Suspend the breath, rotate, and exhale. Lower your right hand down. Inhale. Blow through an open mouth, nice and hard. 2 more times, breathing in. And exhale. And last time, breathing in. And exhale. And open those eyes whenever you're ready.
I like it.
Yeah, so you're already shifting.
Yeah.
And take a mental note of what, like we can even say, what did that feel like to you? And,
I feel like I can breathe better. Like
yes.
I feel like just those final 3 breaths for me, I felt them deeper. Like I felt like I don't know, very calm.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. And I feel also a lot lighter. Just a nice little break at the end of the day. And that was just only, 1 minute of us doing that. The interesting thing about alternate nostril breathing is the alternate nostril breathing starts to balance the hemispheres of the brain. I always say if your mind is feeling a little scrambled eggy, you're going here, there, boo, 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 which is often what we're doing in our society, multitasking. Our brain actually can't do that. Sorry, people. I know you might think you can, but your brain really can't. And that means you're physiologically stressed out. So this is one of those where it can bring some coherence to the brain.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for sharing those.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We like to end every podcast with kind of 3 questions that we ask every guest. The first one is kind of something we talked about earlier, is that, hey, everybody's going to go through anxiety and stress. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. Can you give us an example of maybe something that either causes or caused you stress? And then what you did.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually using a lot of the techniques right now because as I'm retiring, we do the same job for 20 some years and all of a sudden you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
I'm actually moving out of the state of Illinois and I'm going
Ah.
to Africa. So like,
Wow.
right, like three huge things, right? Um,
Huge things.
right.
Yeah.
And when you're moving, you like, I'm looking around my house and going, oh my goodness, I've been here, for a long time. And then I'm looking at my classroom. It's like, oh my goodness, I've been here for a long time. So how do you put this all together? And so it's all the techniques that I've used my whole life preparing for this movement. Every day I keep it simple. I get up and I meditate and I do some of my cardio exercise because I like that. It's finding these small things throughout the day that are part of your self-care, but also that help your body and your mind, stay in that relaxed state. So this way I can make good choices for those kind of things. And it's taking those what I call magic moments and just stopping for a moment right where you're at. And what am I grateful for? Right here. You can set an alarm on your phone, like your gratitude alarm. And you just set that alarm, and as soon as it goes off, you got the little gratitude message going across. What am I grateful for right now? What happens is you learn to go to gratitude, which has been shown scientifically to also enhance the compassion centers and empathy centers of the brain. Just the thought of gratitude shifts your mindset, even if it's just for a nanosecond, that mindset shifts. And it's the repetition of that shifting. And that creates these little victories.
Excellent. That's great. So, second question then that we have for you is, we like to remind kids that, failure is inevitable. And if you're going to, achieve your potential, sooner or later, you're going to fail. Can you share with us maybe a failure that you had in the past and what you learned from it, what you took away from it?
So for me, I had to kind of think about this because even as a child, I never really failed, even though I fall flat on my face numerous times, especially as a gymnast, literally. But I figured out somewhere along the line that I did not read as fast as everybody else. That when the teacher would say, turn to page 254, I was invariably at 245. Right. And I started picking this up all on my own. I just knew that I was not as smart as the other kids. And I became very sensitive to someone calling me stupid or those kind of things. And anyone that's listening, we were in Generation X. You got called all sorts of things right to your face. You needed to handle that. Not that. And I thank those people because of the strength that I was able to cultivate myself. So because I didn't want to be called those things, I learned to study. I learned study habits. And I knew anything that I needed to read. If this was the due date, I had that done 2 weeks ahead of time to make sure I understood, because I was such a slow reader. I had learned to be a sight reader. I could not do phonics, and I still can't do to this day. So I finally just got comfortable with that. And when I started teaching, you still wrote on the board. And so I was teaching Elvin. I'd be like, okay, I can't spell, you guys. I'm going to admit it. I can't spell. So if I'm spelling something wrong, you don't get to make fun of me. You get to teach me how to spell that word. And so as I went through, and then eventually I just said, well, I'm just dyslexic. What happened is the kids that were dyslexic are like, oh my God, I'm so glad you told me that, because now I have somebody who's successful in front of me. And just watching you just go like, whatever. That is, I don't want to say a story of failure, but like where I was at.
Right. Yeah. That's a wonderful example. All right. The last question that we've got for you is, if parents got just a couple minutes, they want to share something with their child, or teacher or coach has a few minutes left of practice or a class, what would your main message be? Kind of your parting words to them?
Is to take a time out, really evaluate what is important. We need to allow space for play. And maybe as a parent, I have to work on that myself. But if you allow the kids, they will sort it out. And sometimes they might be like, I'm bored. Great. What are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
And so let's bring play back.
That's wonderful, Victoria. Thank you so much.
Victoria, congratulations on so many wonderful years of teaching. Thank you for all that you've done for your students and for your school. Many happy, happy years of retirement where you can make more room for play.
Woohoo! That is not a problem for this girl.
Well, Tom, I can definitely see why when you went to that seminar, there was a line out the door for her. She's so fun.
She is so fun, so knowledgeable,
Yes.
so much. I mean, just so much there. From
she's
the
so
enthusiasm to, just plenty of ideas. She was fantastic.
What I loved about Victoria is she gave a lot of practical ideas, but also really poignant things. And I really connected with when she talked about we've created a society of safetyism. And it kind of reflects back to a previous podcast that we've had where we talked a little bit about helicopter parents. And then you brought up the bulldozer parents.
Yeah, or the snowplow parents.
Oh, snowplow parents.
Yeah, both
snowplow.
of them. Yeah.
And how, really trying to find that balance between yes, we want our kids to be protected, but we also want them to create that independence, that autonomy, and finding that balance in between. It's tricky, but it is essential so that kids can go out when they are of college age or adult age and go out on their own and feel like, hey, they've got this. And I feel like that is, or it must be a big challenge as a parent.
You want to protect them.
Yeah.
Through everything, but sometimes protecting them now isn't protecting them for the future.
Right. It's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah. So now you've seen Victoria in, these seminars, but getting to kind of chat with her here, what was something that, kind of really stuck with you?
Yeah, there were so many great practical techniques that people could use. I think that's what stood out to me, from the, the rubber ducky, to the alternate nostril breathing, to that Hoberman ball. I think that's what it was called. Mm-hmm. Lots and lots of techniques that I think our listeners can kind of take and run with their kids. So that was probably my favorite, but a ton of great information in there. I loved it. It was very enjoyable. Speaking with her.
That was great. That was great. Well, Victoria, thank you so much for being on
Victoria.
The podcast. We had so much fun chatting with you, and congratulations on retirement. All these teachers are retiring. It makes me want to retire.
I know.
I guess, no, I can't. Yeah, not yet. Maybe a few more years, right? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate your time. Hope you found this and our other podcasts helpful. If you liked it or
if you didn't, that's okay if you don't like it.
Or if you didn't, please leave us a review. Even the reviews that might not be so good, we get feedback from, and we can improve the podcast going forward. So again, thanks for listening, and we will see you next month. The Raising Resilient Kids podcast is sponsored by Happy You're Here, educational, safe, and joyful videos for kids. Through music, visuals, and sound, your baby, toddler, and preschooler will learn about letters, numbers, and so much more. Happy You're Here is quality screen time that both kiddos and their adults can feel good about. Head to www.youtube.com/@SoHappyYouAreHere to check it out, or click on the link in the show notes.
The Raising Resilient Kids podcast is also sponsored by the Resilient Youth Program. If you're a parent, teacher, or school administrator who wants to incorporate a proven resiliency building program into your school's curriculum, then the Resilient Youth Teach the Teacher program is exactly what you need. This curriculum brings coping skills and life management tools into the school environment to help students better manage daily stress and positively impact their academic performance, mental health, and well-being. For more information, visit the Resilient Youth Teach the Teacher website in the show notes, or at www.smarthwp.com/RY4teachers. It's www.smarthwp.com/RY4teachers. The Raising Resilient Kids podcast is produced, hosted, and edited by Sister Brother Team, Jeannie and Tom Klashevitz. Do you have a question you would like answered by one of our expert guests? If so, visit www.smarthwp.com/Raising Resilient Kids podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next month.